Imagine waking up every morning and looking out your window to see nothing but water. Not a lake view, not an ocean resort. Your home is floating. Your neighborhood is floating. Your entire city is floating. This isn't science fiction. This isn't a concept on a drawing board. This is happening right now in one of the smallest countries on Earth, a nation that has spent 800 years in a war against the sea, a nation that should not exist because 26% of its land sits below sea level. And yet, not only does it exist, it is building the future, a future that every major city on Earth may soon be forced to copy. This is the story of how the Netherlands is building floating cities and why the rest of the world is desperately taking notes. To understand what the Netherlands is building today, you have to understand what it survived yesterday. The Netherlands is a small country in northwestern Europe, about the size of West Virginia, with 17 million people packed inside, and nearly a third of that land was once underwater. For centuries, the Dutch people faced a simple choice: fight the water or drown. They chose to fight. Beginning as early as the 13th century, Dutch engineers began building systems of dikes and earthen walls to hold back the sea. Over hundreds of years, they developed an extraordinary technology called polders. A polder is a piece of land reclaimed directly from the water. Engineers would surround a body of water with dikes, then pump the water out and expose dry land beneath, land that had been underwater for thousands of years. This process gave the Dutch a unique relationship with water, not fear, not avoidance, mastery. But even with centuries of innovation, everything changed on the night of January 31st, 1953. A catastrophic North Sea storm overwhelmed the dike system. Nearly 2,000 Dutch people drowned in a single night. 185,000 people were displaced. It was one of the worst peacetime disasters in European history, and it forced the Netherlands to make a decision, not just to rebuild, but to completely rethink their relationship with water forever. What followed the 1953 flood was one of the greatest engineering projects in human history. The Dutch called it the Delta Works, a massive system of dams, storm surge barriers, sluices, locks, dikes, and levees designed to permanently protect the Netherlands from the sea. Construction began in 1954. It took nearly 50 years to complete. The scale was staggering. The Maeslanckering storm surge barrier alone is one of the largest moving structures ever built by human hands. Each of its two arms is longer than the Eiffel Tower laid on its side. When a major storm approaches, the barrier automatically closes within 30 minutes, blocking the sea from entering Rotterdam's harbor. The entire Delta Works system is so sophisticated, so advanced, that NASA has called it one of the 7 wonders of the modern world. And yet, the Dutch did not stop there, because in the 21st century, a new threat arrived, one that no dike could permanently stop: climate change, rising sea levels, more frequent extreme storms, more intense rainfall. The Dutch engineers looked at their models and realized something unsettling. The old strategy of fighting the water, of building higher walls, of pumping faster, had a limit, and that limit was approaching. So they made a decision that changed everything. Instead of fighting the water, they would live on it. The idea of building on water is not new. Throughout history, cultures around the world built homes on lakes and rivers. Vietnam, Cambodia, Bolivia, floating villages have existed for centuries. But what the Netherlands is doing is something fundamentally different. They are not building simple floating homes. They are building floating infrastructure, floating neighborhoods, floating roads, floating parks, floating office buildings, an entire floating urban ecosystem. The pioneering project that proved this vision was possible sits in the city of Amsterdam. It is called Skunship. Launched in 2019, Skunship is a floating neighborhood of 46 homes, connected by floating walkways on Amsterdam's canals. But these are not simple houseboats. Each home is built on a concrete float, engineered to rise and fall with the water level automatically. The neighborhood has its own solar energy grid, its own water recycling system, its own waste management. It produces more energy than it consumes. Residents describe living there as surprisingly normal. Children cycle along the floating paths. Neighbors share floating garden spaces. Life continues exactly as it would on land, except the ground beneath them moves with the water instead of against it. This is the philosophy at the heart of Dutch innovation. Don't fight nature, work with it. But how does a floating city actually work? The engineering behind it is both simple in concept and extraordinarily complex in execution. The foundation of every floating structure is something called a buoyant foundation. Think of it like an enormous hollow concrete box. The box displaces water, just like a ship, just like any floating object. But unlike a ship, these foundations are engineered to remain completely stable under the weight of a full building. Dutch company Blue 21 has been at the forefront of developing this technology. They have designed floating structures capable of supporting apartment buildings, office complexes, even small factories. The key engineering challenge is not simply keeping the structure afloat, it is keeping it connected, because floating buildings must be attached to the shore, to utilities, to roads, in a way that allows them to rise and fall with the water without breaking any connection. Dutch engineers solve this with flexible utility connections, water pipes, electrical cables, internet connections, all designed with enough flexibility to accommodate water level changes of several meters without interruption. This technology is now so refined that Dutch engineers are exporting it to cities around the world. Jakarta, Bangladesh, New York, Miami, Tokyo, cities that face rising seas, are calling Amsterdam, asking how they did it. But Skunship was only the beginning. The most ambitious floating project in human history is currently being planned just outside Amsterdam on a vast body of water called the IJmere. The proposed development, sometimes called the IJmere Floating City, would house up to 100,000 people, not in a single floating building, but in an entirely self-sufficient floating urban district, floating apartment towers, floating schools, floating hospitals, floating shopping districts, floating parks and green spaces, all connected by floating roads and water transport networks. The scale of this project has no precedent in human history. Never before has any civilization attempted to build an entire city on water at this scale. The projected cost runs into the billions. But Dutch planners argue the alternative is far more expensive, because if sea levels rise by just 1 meter, and current climate models suggest they will, the cost of flooding damage to Amsterdam alone would be catastrophic. Building on the water is not idealism, it is economics. It is survival. The Netherlands is not building floating cities simply because it wants to. It is building them because it has to. And the rest of the world is running out of time to make the same decision. Today, approximately 800 million people live in coastal areas at risk from rising sea levels. By 2050, that number is projected to grow to over 1 billion. Cities like Miami, Florida, already experience regular flooding. On sunny days, no rain required, just high tide. Bangkok is sinking at a rate of 2 centimeters per year. Jakarta, the capital of Indonesia, was sinking so fast, the government began building an entirely new capital city. Further inland, Mumbai, Shanghai, New Orleans, Alexandria, Lagos, the list of cities facing existential threats from rising water grows longer every year. And yet, most of the world's response has been the same as it has always been. Build higher walls, pump faster. The Dutch tried that for 800 years. And then they looked at the science and changed course. The message from Amsterdam to every coastal city on Earth is increasingly urgent. The water is coming. The only question is, will you fight it or learn to live with it? What makes the Netherlands truly remarkable is not just the engineering, it is the mindset. For most of human history, water has been the enemy. something to be feared, controlled, walled out. The Dutch decided centuries ago to see it differently. Water is not the enemy. Water is a resource, a partner, a canvas. This philosophy is embedded in Dutch culture at every level. Dutch children learn about water management the same way American children learn about the Constitution. It is fundamental. It is identity. The Dutch even have a saying, God created the world, but the Dutch created the Netherlands. And they mean it literally, because without centuries of deliberate engineering, without thousands of kilometers of dikes, without the pumping stations that run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, a third of the Netherlands would simply not exist. This cultural relationship with water is what allowed Dutch engineers to make the conceptual leap that other nations have struggled with. When your entire national identity is built on the idea that humans can reshape their environment, building a city on water does not seem impossible. It seems inevitable. For Americans watching this story, the lessons are impossible to ignore. The United States has over 95,000 miles of coastline. Cities like Miami, New York, New Orleans, Houston, and San Francisco all face significant water threats. In the coming decades, FEMA estimates that flood damage already costs the United States over $17 billion per year. That number is growing. And while the debate in Washington often focuses on whether to build higher seawalls or not, the Dutch have already moved past that debate. They are not just protecting their cities, they are redesigning them. Room for the River, a Dutch program, launched in the 2000s, deliberately moved dikes back to give rivers more space. Farms and parks were built in designated flood zones. The result? Less flood damage, more livable cities, more resilient infrastructure. The Dutch are not waiting for the perfect political moment to act on climate change. They are building now, adapting now, innovating now, because they understand, better than almost anyone on Earth, that water does not wait for political consensus. 800 years ago, a small group of people stood at the edge of the North Sea and decided not to run. They decided to stay, to fight, to build, and everything they learned in those 800 years of struggle is now being offered to a world that is running out of time. Floating cities are not a fantasy. They are an answer. The only question is whether the rest of the world will listen before the water makes the decision for them. Subscribe to Echoes of Power, because the most powerful stories are not the ones about destroying nature. They are the ones about humans who learn to respect it.